Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Come and take a seat. Plenty of seats at the front if you need one. Great. Hush is descending. So, as we say, there's a few seats left at the front. So for those late comers, do just quietly make your way down to the front so you don't need to stand at the back. Good morning, everyone, and to those in the room and to those online. We know there's many colleagues watching us online as well, and it's going to be recorded for those that can't watch at this time. Welcome to the Trust Conference celebrating the bicentenary of healthcare in Harrogate. I'm Jackie Andrews, Medical Director, Deputy Chief Exec, and a very proud rheumatologist today. Over the last few months, since the actual date of the bicentenary, which was the 6th of April, a huge number of events have taken place in the town to celebrate Harrogate's prominent position in healthcare in the UK. There's been a 6-week exhibition, a number of talks, historic walks, plays, and school competitions. As the largest provider of healthcare in Harrogate, we wanted to do our bit to add to the celebrations. So we've had 2 open days and now this absolutely fantastic conference. Thank you for joining. A little bit of housekeeping as usual. No fire alarms are planned, so if you hear any, please do follow instructions. We're going to be really busy today. Over 280 people have signed up, so please tuck your bags away. We don't want any slips or trips. It's going to be a really packed day from an agenda point of view, because we know time away from work is so precious, but also so important. So please do maximise your time today. Get out and about, look at all those fantastic posters that people have submitted, look at the 20+ departmental stalls we have, make sure you attend the workshops, and there's also some really exciting surgical kit for you to have a play with. So, a little bit about why are we here? Why is Harrogate so famous as a town for health and well-being? Well, imagine yourself in 1571. William Slingsby, a local nobleman, is riding through the royal forest of Knaresborough, which is now called the Stray. His horse stops to have a drink from a spring, and William notices a very familiar smell from his time of his grand tour of Europe, especially when he was near Spa in Belgium. He has discovered the country's very first mineral spring, the Tuat Well, so named after the local name for lapwings, which frequented it. Following this, 87 other mineral springs were discovered in our town, and Harrogate was on a journey to being the leading spa town of the nation, well ahead of Bath by a number of years, just saying. So you probably didn't think when you were coming here, you knew you'd get CPD, you probably didn't think you'd get geology CPD, but here we are. Why do we have so many mineral springs, actually thought to be the highest number in the world? Well, it's because we're on a geological fault known as an anticline, where the oldest rocks are pushed up in an arc and are trapped under a strata of shale and limestone and sandstone, which is apparently great for petrochemical extraction, so that could be the next big boom, but also for trapping mineral water. And there are 2 main types of mineral waters, sulfurous and iron-rich. The name for iron-rich in the old days was chalybeate, so you'll probably see that around the town. And over centuries, they've been used to treat a wide range of medical conditions. So from the 1700s onwards, the rich and the famous from all over Europe came to take the waters of Harrogate. During Georgian times, over 20,000 people came to do the Harrogate season. Think of us as the Bridgerton of the North, perhaps. And then by Victorian days, when the railway arrived, over 60,000 people came to take the waters. But it was not just about drinking and bathing in the water. There was this thing called the Harrogate Cure. Google it, it's a real thing. It became essentially the leading health and well-being package holiday for the nation and involved a number of cultural pursuits such as attending concerts, readings and assemblies, and promenading in the clean air of the newly laid out Valley Gardens. And so perhaps those Victorians were onto something regarding the importance of nature and shared pursuits in mental and physical health. The rich and the famous were encouraged over the years to donate to those less fortunate who weren't able to pay to attend the hotels that had this private spas. And over time, enough was raised to build the first formal hospital in Harrogate, the Harrogate Bath Hospital, and it opened on the 6th of April, 1826. A variety of fascinating treatments were applied over the years. Various kinds of douches or showers, known as the needle douche, the Scotch douche, and the Vichy douche. I haven't researched what they all are. The chalybeate miracle cure, peat baths like this unfortunate gentleman, and also electrical and radiant light therapies. I don't think they would pass NICE approval now, but they were the days. So a building was stood on that site since 1826. It was significantly extended in 1889, where it got the Royal Seal as the Royal Bath Hospital and the Rawson Convalescent Home. And it remained as a functioning hospital right up to 1994, when the last beds were moved to Chapel Allerton Hospital in Leeds as the regional rheumatology unit. And that's why Yorkshire, and particularly Leeds, is world leading for rheumatology. But of course, though the Bath Hospital was the first hospital and used mineral waters for treatments, by the later Victorian years, modern medicine was evolving and the need for more general hospitals were realised. Harrogate gained its first general hospital in 1870 when 2 cottages on Tower Street near West Park Stray were converted into a 6-bed unit, and then it was expanded into what was then the Masonic Hall, top left, to form a slightly larger unit. And then the first purpose-built general hospital was built right next door to it on Bedford Road, top right, and many of you who live in the time will recognise this as the current day St Peter's Primary School. Some of you might even have kids that go there. So it's still in use today. And then just before World War II, a new district general was built on Knaresborough Road. And I know there are colleagues in the room today who worked at it and have heard plenty of tales of the fun times they had there. There was also a number of smaller hospitals in the district, such as the Poor Hospital in Knaresborough, which is bottom right. I don't think it stands anymore. Scott and Banks TB unit. And in view of the prominence of healthcare in Harrogate, the Regional Health Authority was based here in what is now the Cedar Court Hotel. So for over 60 years, the General, as it was known, functioned. But then a new District General Hospital, our current District General, Harrogate District Hospital, opened in 1974. When it opened, it only had an A&E department, a few wards and a few laboratories. And over the years, there's been various additions with the final wing, Strayside, completed in 1998. Top left is a picture of what it looked like when it opened. Bottom left is what it was meant to look like when it was completed. I think we might have forgotten to put a few layers on the hospital. It doesn't quite look like that, and I suspect the NHS finances were probably as challenged in the 1970s as they are now. But of course, healthcare continues to evolve, and in 2020, who can forget the sombre image of the huge oxygen cylinder outside the Harrogate Conference Centre when it was converted into the Nightingale Hospital for the whole of Yorkshire and Humber during the COVID pandemic, and that's the image top right. More changes on site at HDH currently. Bottom right is a picture of our current build, which we're building a new theatre complex, a new imaging suite, which is fantastic and will open in a few months' time. But of course, we continue to evolve, and who knows whether in the future we'll even need a new District General Hospital, because as we move more and more into community and neighbourhood health, with community diagnostic centre and neighbourhood health centres planned in the near future, we really don't know what the future of healthcare will look like. So you'll be hearing much more about that today as we look back over healthcare, but also look forward for people to tell us what they think the next 50 or 200 years might look like. But most importantly, today is about celebrating our magnificent history of healthcare in Harrogate and District and beyond. But even more importantly, our people, past and present. Thank you for all that you do. Now I will hand over to Jonathan for his welcome address.
Morning everybody. Gosh, if I just looked at the first 3 rows, I'd think we were unattended, but there's loads and loads of people here, so it's just fantastic. So I'm Jonathan, the Chief Exec here at HGFT, and it's a real pleasure to be with you all day today as we celebrate, as Jackie said, 200 years of healthcare in Harrogate. It's brilliant to see so many of you, so thank you for coming. Now, Jackie covered the kind of history of how healthcare in Harrogate has developed. And as she said, we had a history lesson, but surprisingly a geology lesson as well, which is fantastic. And there'll be some brilliant sessions through the day, which will be great to attend in terms of how we're dealing with the challenges of now, so we're prepared for the next few hundred years as well. So where are we in terms of our healthcare journey then at this point in time? What are the things that we will need to be dealing with? What are the challenges that we've got to think about? Obviously, as a country, and really successfully, we've got a population that is gradually getting older, and that's a real sign of success. And in Harrogate, I would suggest we're a bit ahead of the national curve in terms of our ageing population. But if you think back, in terms of giving the scale of that, if you think back just over 100 years to 1917, when King George V thought, do you know what, it'd be really lovely to send a telegram to everybody that got to be 100. I won't set this as a quiz question, but if you think about how many telegrams did George V send in 1917, that whole year, he sent 24. And now there is more than 24 that are sent each day. So that shows you the scale of what's happened in terms of the population getting healthier and living longer, which is fantastic, but clearly has an impact of what we are doing. And we have people now who are living with multiple conditions. We have treatments and drugs and procedures that weren't thought about even 20 years ago, let alone 200 years ago, that we are now doing. And no doubt there will be things that we do in 20, 30 years that we don't know about today. As Jackie said, we've had a COVID pandemic in very recent history in terms of historical terms, and I don't think we know the full impact of that as yet, but we do know that we have delayed treatments, there's been an impact on child development, there's been an impact on mental health across society. And what we also know, at some point in the future, there will be another one for us to have to deal with. There's the rapid rise of technology to harness the improving technology that we've got, alongside getting ahead of some of the demands that we'll have and focusing much more on prevention and how we deliver care in different settings going forward. And we've got the real immediate crisis, haven't we, of a crisis in confidence, I suppose, nationally, in terms of some of our maternity services that you'll have read about just in the last few weeks. And then we also have then the kind of generational crisis that's being created and emerging through what we are doing to our planet as well, which we need to think about. So there really is a lot to think about at this point in our history, but it's also really important to not just think about what might change and what has changed, but what has stayed the same. Because what's always stayed the same, we need to remember, so that we can build on the progress of the last 200 years and address whatever the future holds. So what hasn't changed? Well, what people expect and want from their healthcare and from the health services and the health. If you look back at all of the surveys, public surveys that have been done over 50, 60, 70 years, over the decades, the same message comes out from the public. Understandably, they want really high quality care when they need it, delivered by skilled people in a decent environment. And that's it. It's a pretty simple message. It's not rocket science, and we probably could have written most of those down ourselves, but what we need to do and what the public expect is pretty straightforward. What also hasn't changed over the last 200 years, and won't going forward as well, is the importance of health. We know, don't we, that health is the most important thing. And we know that not because that's where we work, we know that from our own personal experience. You'll all have relied on the NHS. If I asked you to put your hands up, anybody who here for themselves or their family that's never used the NHS, never relied on healthcare, I don't think anybody would put their hand up. And when we do need to rely on the health service, we worry about it, we organise our lives around it, we get anxious about it, it's in the front of our minds about it. And I can tell you from personally that in the last 18 months, for myself and my immediate family, we have accessed cancer services, stroke services, district nursing services, ED services, orthopaedics, gynecology, ophthalmology and urology, and primary care. And I don't think, if I asked all of you in the room, I don't think I'd be particularly unusual that in my immediate family that those are services that we've relied on. So healthcare is something we'll always rely on and need, and it will continue to be of utmost importance to everybody. So What then do we learn from history? What do we build on as we go forward to ensure that we do the right thing? What is the common thread over the centuries that reflects the kind of consistency and importance of what we do, with also the excitement and the challenge of a changing world? What connects then with now? What connects now with the future? And clearly, the answer is you and colleagues like you. You're the connection. You're the people that will continue the successful story of healthcare in Harrogate going forward. The values that you bring and the culture that pervades across HDFT and whatever organisations preceded or go after this one will continue to be the biggest factor in ensuring that we can deliver the quality of care that the public quite rightly expect. And when you read about or learn about organisations where sadly healthcare has failed the public, and you'll know those organisations, whether it's Morecambe Bay or Midstaffs or reading Nottingham's report last week or whatever, the common cause isn't a lack of money. It isn't that we forgot to follow a policy or a procedure. They're important, but they're not the themes that go through that. The common cause is a poor culture and a lack of positive values. It's a culture that breeds distrust and lack of confidence and people not speaking up and normalising care so that it's not seen. But on the flip side, on the really positive side, if you look at where things are really good and you get really good outcomes, it's the opposite of that. You see a strong correlation with a positive culture, with staff engagement and with positive values. So how we show up, we can do something about that, can't we? Because it's not about money, it's not about technology, it's about how we are, how we show up every day at times that are really normal for us, but are absolutely exceptional and matter so much for the patients that are coming to see us each day, will define us and will define the future of healthcare in Harrogate. How we are, how we work together, how fair we are, how high we set our standards will make the biggest difference to what the public get from healthcare in Harrogate going forward. We are, sadly, I suppose, we are mere mortals, and therefore we are temporary stewards of healthcare in Harrogate. And many people have come before us and many people will come after us. And the legacy we've inherited and the legacy that we need to pass on is one of ambition and positivity and positive values. As Jackie said, no one has developed healthcare by being unambitious, and no one has delivered outstanding care without really strong and positive values. And I look around here and all of the people that work across healthcare in Harrogate and have done in the past, we are in a really, really privileged position of providing the most important thing that there is to hundreds of thousands of people. So at this point in time, as we celebrate the past, as we look to the future, let's really remember the importance of what we do, and let's be really positive about what can be achieved, because the patients and the population deserve that from us, and we deserve that from ourselves as well. So that was all I was going to say. A big thank you from me to all of you and to all the colleagues that have worked across healthcare in Harrogate and beyond. Hope you really, really enjoy the day. There'll be loads to enjoy as we go through the day. And it's now my pleasure to introduce and thank Dean Royals, who's the Interim Chief Exec of NHS Employers, for giving up some time to come and speak to us today. So I will now hand over to Dean. Thank you very much, Dean.
Wrong way. Morning, everyone. My name's Dean. Thank you very much for inviting me here today. It's an absolute pleasure to come to Harrogate. A bit like Jonathan, really. When you stand at the front here, you know there's a particular NHS trait that if you come to a conference, you have to come early to get a seat at the back. Unlike anywhere else, and you start wondering, is it my deodorant or something that we've got these empty spaces in front of us? So if you're at the back, please feel free to come forward during the breaks. But brilliant to be here. Oh, look, there's a camera coming as well. Let me show you. Look. So for speakers coming up, if you want to get your picture in the, in the magazine coming through, what they like in the camera is, you've got to do an expressive stance or something. If you stand like this you're never going to get that picture. But this picture is sort of coming through. That's how you sort of get some profile there. But really, really pleased to be here. And what a fantastic opportunity to celebrate everything that's happening in Harrogate. So I know at the end of the conference, people will thank the people that have organised it. But by then, they're already packing up. So I just thought it'd be great to thank Jonathan and Jackie and all the team that have put all this on today, in a busy environment. So let's give them all a round of applause. thank you very much for organising. You know, a lot of work goes into making these happen, so thank you for that. What I want to start with is a question to you all, that when it comes to work, what is it that keeps you awake at night? When you're sort of lying in bed and thinking something about work, what is it that keeps you awake at night? So I'm just going to ask you to take a moment to reflect. What is it that keeps you awake at night? So I'm guessing that some of you would have said, you know, we're doing a reorganisation and, you know, there's a lot on my plate and I've got to try and juggle that with other things. Somebody might be saying, you know, something that's going wrong on the ward area that we need to put right. It's impacting upon patient care. Some of you might be involved in big IT projects and sort of rolling those out, and it's not going as smoothly as you'd hoped coming through. Some of you might be thinking about how we're going to raise the money for a new robot that we've got at the back, and you know, how we're going to sort of do all of that. And I would suggest to you that if you thought one of those things, you were probably lying to yourself. Yeah, because I think that what keeps you awake at night is having a conversation with somebody at work that you don't really want to have. You lay there knowing something's gone wrong, there's a relationship issue, somebody's performance isn't great, and I need to have that conversation. And you sit there in bed at night wondering how you're going to open the conversation up, what you're going to say. If they say this, then I'll say that. Yeah, but if they say this, then I could say that, sort of coming through. Aha! But when they say that, then I'm going to say this. And, you know, you wake up and, you know, 4 o'clock in the morning, you eventually get off to work, and then you get up in the morning and you're sort of determined. Everything is clear in your mind, exactly what you're going to do. And you come into work, determined to have this conversation, only to discover that the person's gone off sick. And you're going to have another sleepless night to do it all again. So I can see some people nodding there, because that's the thing that still keeps me awake at night. And I think whether you're the chief executive or the chair of an organisation, it's probably those things that keep you awake at night. So when I was approached by Jackie to do this session, we talked about doing something about teamwork and working as part of a team. I thought that's a great idea, but what I did want to do is start with the nice stuff. I wanted to start with the sort of difficult stuff, and that is having the conversations, whether you're leading a team or working as part of a team. And I'm going to suggest to you, I've done this a few times, but I know all of you have got one of those conversations that are avoiding coming through. So without naming names or giving too much away, just spend a moment or two just with your neighbour, just talking about that conversation that you're perhaps avoiding that you need to have. Could be a big, massive conversation or a really difficult local conversation. Just a minute or two to chat to your neighbour. Okay. Okay, thanks everyone. Thanks everyone. That was all right, wasn't it, for me anyway? It could have been a really awkward silence for someone. I've not got anything, you know, nothing all to talk about. But clearly from the conversation, I can see that a number of you have got conversations that you're avoiding and needing to ask. Either that, or you're just took the opportunity to work out what the score is going to be tonight when England play the Democratic Republic of Congo coming through. I should say at this point, I'd love to say that the last time I spoke in Harrogate, when England were playing an international, they won convincingly. Now, I'd love to say it, but it wasn't true. So it's the hope that gets you, isn't it? So we'll come to that later. So let's just have a look about so the issue of those difficult conversations. According to the Harvard Business Review, managers spend something like 17% of time dealing with difficult conversations, but most people wait until it becomes a crisis. So if you had it earlier, would you spend less time doing that? And there's loads of issues that these can come up about. It's not, there's not one sort of issue here. So it could be someone's lateness at work, poor behaviour, bad behaviour, inappropriate behaviours, sort of not following instructions, or often when other people come and tell you that somebody's doing something that they shouldn't be doing, and you've got to kind of deal with it and address it when you're relying upon somebody else. So I want to just kind of walk through a bit of a framework to help you have that conversation coming through, because it really matters, because avoiding having those conversations creates bigger creates bigger problems in the end. So we have productivity issues, team morale, you could end up in tribunals, you end up with legal risks, all because you avoided having an early conversation. And in the team, you get this morale erosion. People see that you're not dealing with things. But doing them well builds trust, it improves performance, it strengthens your leadership position because people see you dealing with some difficult issues. And again, I've just asked yourself a question here, that when you're at work, do you want to be liked or do you want to be respected? Do you want to be liked or do you... It's very easy to be liked at work. Just, give everyone whatever they want. Quite hard to be respected, and some of that comes from difficult decisions. Now, great if you can get the double, yeah? So to be liked and respected is what you're sort of aiming for. But if you've got to choose one or the other, choose respect. Otherwise, you're just going to store up these other problems that you've got. It's also, rather than thinking of it as a difficult conversation or a challenging conversation, sometimes you can just reframe that and say, look, I need to have a conversation. This is going to be investment in clarity of the relationship I've got with somebody. So it's not approaching it from a difficult conversation point of view, but sort of reframing it in that way. So just some tips on doing it, because this is where it comes down to it, isn't it? So something like 70 to 80% of the success of that conversation will come before you even open your mouth. Planning and preparing for the conversation that you're going to have. So I'm sorry, but you do need to stay awake at night sometimes to be preparing for that conversation. But you can prepare in advance, get examples, facts, but also be prepared to listen. You don't necessarily just have to be thinking, I'm right here. What is it that they've got to say? Manage your own state when you're going it, particularly if you stayed awake all night coming through. What's your intent on having this conversation? Are you going to speak to people with curiosity about why this is an issue and respect what it is that they've got to say? Or are you just intent on having the conversation to prove that you're right and punitive? It's a different conversation in that language sort of coming through. The way that you open up the conversation is really important. Why on earth did you allow that to happen? Defensive response. Can you explain to me what happened the other day when? Yeah, 2 different responses you're going to get. Choose the time and the place to do it, clearly privately, and as soon as possible after the event is practical. There's an old adage, the standard that you walk past is the standard that you accept. So if someone is doing something inappropriate behaviours, and you let it pass one day, think I should have said something, and you let it pass the next day, 2 weeks later, that's now become, their behaviour, and it's a harder and harder conversation each time. This could be, even if you're part of a team, someone says to you something in the team, and it sort of upsets you in some way, just try and sort it straight away. I can remember being on the phone from kind of payroll or something like that, and they'll phone you up and say something really, harshly to you. And sometimes people have got that bravery, haven't they, when they don't see you, but walking down to them and saying, did I do something to upset, can I get it out of the way? Face to face, really sort of important. So start with that positive and neutral tone. State the purpose clearly. I want to talk to you about this because I genuinely value your contribution overall. This isn't the only, kind of thing that's between us at the moment. Focus on behaviour, not personality. Stick with observable things. For example, you submitted your report late rather than you're always unreliable. Yeah. So you've submitted your report late the last 3 times. It's an observable fact. I'm not unreliable. I always do things on time. So get there, and that kind of avoids that defensive response coming through. Get those concrete examples and explain the impact. Link them to your team goals, to customers, patients. This one is probably the most important one. I should have made it in bold, really. But when you're having these conversations, if you use the I statements, so I noticed, I'm concerned, rather than people tell me, we all think, you lose ownership of that. So if you can't say, I believe, I find you, then don't say it. If you can't say I, you're relying upon somebody else's judgment. So, hold it in the I coming through. And then really collaborate on solutions, so don't just leave people sort of go away and sort it. What can we do to make sure this doesn't happen again? How can I help you? Get into that sort of conversation there. And then clearly kind of follow up, particularly if you're a manager that's doing this, document what it is that you've agreed to do. And then just a bonus tip, because, I'm here to help, where you can balance that criticism with a genuine belief in their ability to improve, people are far more likely to change when they feel supported rather than attacked. So again, that language, the way that you do this, curiously, not with punitive, not trying to prove yourself right, looking to create solutions, that's the way that people are going to change behaviour coming through. Now, I'm going to switch a little bit here because I could see that you're all having the conversation. If you've got to have a lot of those conversations, I think there's a question to ask, isn't it? Is it about me? Am I having lots of difficult conversations because it's about what I'm doing? So we talked through some of that there. So have you got insight into your own behaviour, the way that you ask questions, the way that you probe, the way that you address people, your body language? Seek feedback on that. Maybe there's something that you're doing that's generating a response. If you are part of a team, are you playing to people's strengths? I think very often in the NHS, people do a brilliant job 90% of the time, and then there's something they're not doing quite right, and we focus upon that particular issue sort of coming through and make a meal of that, rather than saying, is there a different way we can organise the work, that those issues don't come up as much? I'm not talking about changing the grade or anything here, but just when you're in a team, how do you balance people's round to play to their strengths? And that kind of ability to sort of understand and listen. So just as an example about is it you, I used to work at a strategic health authority, and there was a chairman, a knight of the realm. He was well known, coming through. I'll not give his name, but he wouldn't mind me telling this story. He used to be a chief executive of a large authority beforehand, and he was telling us in a development session about something they'd done at the local authority, where they'd taken the executive team out and wanted to kind of get better working relationships. And one of the things that they wanted to do was to have a conversation with one of your colleagues about things that they do well and things that you wish they did differently. And he thought, this is the opportunity I've been waiting for. I've got this director of communications, and I've always wanted to give her a bit of feedback about something, and I can do it now in a very safe environment, and I'm going to do that. So they sit down together, and he says to her, look, you make a fantastic contribution to this team. You've got high energy, you bring something in every day, you're always at work, you've always got thoughts and ideas, and long may that continue. He said, but things that I wish you do differently. When we have conversations, you keep on telling me things that you've already told me. You start telling me a story about something going wrong, and I've heard it before, And I don't know what it is, but you keep on, you keep on telling me, and you come back again, sort of thing coming through. And you go, really pleased is, you know people like that, don't you? Keep on telling you the sorts of things that's coming through. So he's delighted with himself that he's got there. And of course, then the reverse is true. And she says, well, you're a brilliant chief executive. The way that you've turned this local authority around is amazing. We have brilliant partnerships coming round. But things I wish you'd do differently. When I meet you and talk to you about things, I do wish you'd listen. So two different perspectives. Is it about you that you're having the conversation? Are you curious in that way? So here's just a little model. Sorry, I keep on turning the machine upside down here. But so this is just a bit of a model about sort of working well in teams. And here at this side here, we've got the kind of functional team, as it were. And over here is the opposite of that, the dysfunctional team. So on here, we've got teams that have got high levels of trust. They manage conflict well. So when things go wrong, they're able to address them. They're able to secure commitment to, the goals of the team. They hold each other to account. And as a result of that, they get, high-performing results within that team. But the baseline there is that kind of trust and conflict. Are you building trust with the team that you work with? Again, whether you're the team leader here or a member of a team. They say about trust, it's one of those things that, arrives on a donkey and leaves on a racehorse. So it's hard to achieve, but very easy to lose. And it's often lost because of that fear of conflict. So not dealing with issues. All the things that I've sort of highlighted before about when you don't have them, the erosion of morale coming through, the lack of respect, not dealing with some of the sorts of issues, their performance impacting upon somebody else's. Why should I, work my socks off, when other people are sort of able to get away with things. So, in there you've got this kind of invulnerability coming through, and then that artificial harmony. So it feels to the outside that people are sort of getting on, but really just not dealing with that issue there. So just a little model for people to think about. If for those of you that want it, Lencioni, if you want to sort of have a look at it and put a bit more detail sort of into that. But I wanted to give you kind of 4 words about the difference we can all make at work as part of our team. So I think these are the 4 things that people want from work. Meaning. So all of us, when we come to work, want to understand that we're making a difference. Now that can be quite easy if you're a nurse on a ward and you can see someone coming in ill and go home well, or go home better, or that they have compassion and support to the ends of their lives, and that's done well. You can go home, with real meaning in what it is that you're doing. The further you're away from that sort of front line of care, the harder that is to happen. But all of us that work in the health service, whether you're working in payroll, on a reception, in admin department, producing invoices, portering people around, moving equipment, working on a help desk, all of us contribute to that healthcare, and it's our job as leaders in those teams and as members in those teams to help people see the difference that your job is making. When you pay people on time and reliably, it avoids an issue for them coming through. Their overtime has been paid. The money that they were expecting means they bring more of themselves to work. When it's wrong, they don't. So meaning is something that we can all do to help people saying, what's the difference that you're making to patient care in Harrogate? Hope, really sort of important. I think all of us, whoever you are, want to hope that tomorrow's going to be better than today. It's going to be hard, isn't it? Because it's a brilliant day. But tomorrow will be better today, next week will be better than last week, and next year is going to be better than this year. We all hope for that coming through. And when times are tough within organisations, it's really hard to sort of see that hope. But all of us can help people see the sort of light at the end of the tunnel. I think things like this, doing these sorts of events when you've got tough times, is part of that bringing hope. Looking to the future of healthcare in the town that you serve is part of bringing that hope. But you can do that in the team that you're working with as well, whether you're the team leader or a member of the team. So meaning, hope. The third one is belonging. So we're social animals. You know, we're not meant to exist alone. We're part of families, we're part of teams, and we can make people feel that at work. Whatever their circumstances outside, you know, work can be a place where you feel a sense of belonging and a sense of teamwork coming through. If you think back onto the times when you're doing your best, it's probably because you get on well with the people that you're working with. You enjoy coming into work, you feel supported by them. And that doesn't just happen, it's people doing things. And that could be you that's making that difference to people feeling a part of that team and feeling a sense of belonging. So meaning, hope, belonging, and then finally growth. I think all of us want to feel as though we're doing our job better each day, that we're learning, growing, enhancing what it is that we do. We're making a better contribution today than we did last week. You know, so there's jobs for us that work in HR about making sure that we're kind of investing in training and development in organisations and targeting that well. But you can also do that within teams as well, giving people new experiences, you know, helping people out, giving a bit of feedback about how something landed, sort of coming through. So all of us can do that. So for my half-hour session, to leave you with, you know, what's the difference that you can make is helping bringing meaning, hope, belonging and growth. 4 words from a 30-minute sort of session from me, I think will make a real difference to the people that you work. Now, I know, as I come to the end, that not everyone could get here. We've got some people online today. You managed to get the time to come here and sort of learn and develop. And I know that when you go back, some people are going to say to you, did you have a good jolly yesterday with a nice lunch while you left us here doing all the work coming through? And you go, oh no, it was all right. It wasn't, you know, actually the coffee was a bit cold and it wasn't, you know. It's like, so I'm going to help you out about what to say. So apart from meaning, hope, belonging and growth. Could you all just stand up for me, including those watching online at home? It's a good opportunity to stretch your legs. Stand up, and then if you could just kind of close your eyes, just very briefly for me. And then you can open your eyes. There we go. And then just want you to take your hand and stick it on your chest. So it is 250 years of the American, coming through. So you got that there. And then just, while you do that, just turn around on this, like that. There we go. Just look at that. So I'm paid by the health and well-being team here to keep you up and stopping DVTs and things like that. But sit down. And likewise at home, if you're watching, you can sit down. So when you get back to work tomorrow and people say, what was the event like? You'll be able to say, oh, it was amazing. There was this guy from NHS Employers that was talking to us. And honestly, I was a bit sceptical when I saw him on the agenda. But, at the end of it, he got me to my feet. He's opened my eyes. He's touched my heart. And to be honest, it's turned me completely around. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you. Thank you.
Great, thank you. That's a good way to end that part of it. So we've come to the end of the very, well, I haven't quite come to the end. We've got a bit more to do before a break, but we have got some time in the programme now for any questions. Obviously, you've heard from Jackie, myself, Dean. Are there any questions you'd like to ask any of us? And we will attempt to answer them. Any questions for any of us that have spoken so far?
So I'm looking for people with hands up.
There's a hand up there, yeah.
We got one.
There's a mic coming to here, yeah.
I couldn't resist the question because I think when things are great, everything can be as great as it could be. We're entering a period of big challenge. So perhaps the question to everybody, and particularly Dean, what are the things that keep us on the straight and narrow and together as we move through challenge?
Okay, I'm glad you said, and particularly to Dean. I'll pass that over to you now, Dean. You've got a mic, that's great.
So these are tough times, aren't they, coming through. I was talking to Jonathan earlier. So I spent my career working in the NHS, and relatively early on in my career, a wise person said to me, Dean, it's not that bad. It's not. In a few years' time, these will be the good old days you're looking back to. So, and that's that hope, isn't it? So I think that there's something about, in challenging times, I think being honest with ourselves, being respectful to each other, being kind, we find ourselves in these circumstances, it's of nobody's making. Being honest in those conversations, and where things do start to cause friction, or tension, having those conversations early and repairing them as soon as possible, I think sort of gets us through. And then there's something to me which is a kind of, if you ever get a chance to have a look at the NHS Constitution coming through. So it's coming up actually, isn't it, is it the 78th birthday of the NHS next week? On the 5th of July. On its 60th birthday, as it were, someone wrote a constitution, and the opening paragraph of that says, the NHS belongs to the people. It's there to improve health and save lives. It works at the limits of science. We help people to get well, and when they can't get them well, we keep them as well as can be to the ends of their lives. It's better language than that, but that sort of sense of mission about what we're here for is to think what keeps us focused through the tough times. We make that difference whether you're working in payroll or working as a frontline nurse.
Yeah, thanks, Dean. And I'd also say it's as you said, Sakira, it's really easy to be kind to each other and to work with our values and all those sort of things when things are really, really positive. And there'll be cycles of things that are tricky, and holding on to those values all of the time is how things will work, and how we can continue, as Dean said, with the mission that we all have signed up to. So, yeah, thanks for that question, but one for us all to reflect on. Thank you. Question. Oh, yes, question just here. Shall I hand the mic over here rather than Claire come all the way from the back?
Happy Wednesday, everybody. It's so wonderful to be here. My name is Beauty Kasaniho, international educated nurse from Zambia. And I couldn't speak any English until I went to secondary school. I walked 2 hours each way to school without shoes in the rain. But I'm here to acknowledge Harrogate Hospital for the golden opportunity of being at this hospital. But my number one is what you've done towards the well-being. Oh my goodness, the port, the library. I'll end here, otherwise I can speak for hours and end. And thank you for this wonderful, event.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And I absolutely cannot follow that, but thank you. That was fantastic. Thank you. Any other questions from the audience? Don't be shy. He says people being really, really shy.
Yeah?
No. Oh,
I've got a question.
Oh, go on, Claire.
I'll do one. So you talked at the beginning about difficult conversations and keeping you up at night. So a lot of people, in my experience, avoid those conversations through fear of consequence. So whilst all those things are really good to help us prepare, organisationally, could we do more around training and helping people with the courage to have those conversations without fear?
Thank you, Claire. I was talking to Claire earlier. We worked together at Leeds. So, yes, Claire, I think there is something about the fear is the longer you leave it, the harder it is. So there's just something which isn't training. It's just confronting and dealing with something as soon as possible when it doesn't feel right. I think kind of it can twist at the gut a little bit, but it's not as fearful as when you've left something for weeks and months and you should have done it before and had that sort of conversation. So there's something in there. And then I think there is something in training for people as well. So I'm a non-executive director, and one of the things you get told as a non-executive director is you should be able to challenge the executive within the organisation. And no one tells you why you have to challenge the sort of executive. And, is it, to catch them out? Do I say it to so, haha, I told you so, or I knew better, or I know you've not thought it through. And I think that the training is that the purpose of, those challenging conversations is to get the best out of people. So the purpose of a non-executive challenge isn't to find them out, it's to help them succeed. And I think if we can help people to have conversations that are aimed with that sort of curiosity, and the purpose is not to prove yourself right, but to help them succeed, I think that makes a big difference. And then the training, I think, Claire, is something in that language. What on earth did you do yesterday can we just understand what happened yesterday and explain it to me. You know, how did you think that went? Rather than, that was terrible, wasn't it? You know, so I think there's something in training, in just the language that we use. It's the same point that you're trying to make, but whether you get a defensive response or an open response is often just the language. So that'd be the training bit for me. But the biggest thing, just do it as soon as possible. It's not nice, but far easier than leaving it a few weeks or a few months or a few years in some cases.
Yeah, thanks. And I suppose my quick reflection is people, when you have those conversations, people will respect that as well. And whilst we need to do the training on the techniques and things, as leaders, we influence by what we do or what we don't do, and people will watch how we are. So I think it's really important we give training, but we've also got to respond in the right way. So when something does go wrong, actually the response of us to that, if that is a learning response or a positive response, then people will feel more confident. If the first time something goes wrong, you know, the kind of bricks come down and say, goodness me, how the hell did that happen? Then clearly people will find it much more tricky to have those conversations. So creating the environment every day that we do, hopefully will help those conversations as well as some of the tips that are really important and will help practically to have those conversations. Thanks. I think I saw a couple more hands. Yep, thank you.
Yes, so I think that was an excellent question, and I do think that there's an element of the fear that comes from the lack of training. So in a previous trust, I worked as a ward manager, and I can go and I can look after patients. I know how to organise care. I know how to organise the teams on the ward. I know how to look at, improving those caring standards. I wasn't expecting the HR element, the finance element, and you were literally, and that, like I say, it was a different trust. You were literally presented with these things on my first day. This is your budget. This is your staffing allocation. When I had an issue with some performance from members of staff, I was told I had to deal with it, and I had no training whatsoever. So surely that lack of training is what perpetuates that fear. Nobody wants to have those difficult conversations, but if you don't know how to start those difficult conversations in the first place, then you're not going to get anywhere, are you?
Thank you. No, we're not born to do that. And as I'm not a clinician, it'd be like asking me to go onto a ward and understand how to do what you do very, very well, and the other way around, you would potentially struggle. So you're absolutely right. We do need to make sure that our leaders and managers in those roles are supported and given some of the practical ways of doing that. Thank you. Yep, got two more there. Yeah, we've got two more questions, and then we'll need to move on to the next one. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Sati. I'm the Freedom to Speak Up Guardian at the Trust. So mine's not a question, it's more a reflection, and it kind of links into your question a little bit. So a lot of what everybody said today and spoke about has really resonated with me. The main themes that have come out and are actually close to my heart are leading with curiosity, and I think that's key in everything we do. And people talk about communication is key, and communication really is key, but leading with curiosity is more important and links in with communication. If you lead in with a curious mind, and you might not come from a protected characteristic of somebody, or you might not be in the shoes of somebody else, or be a nurse on the ground or anything like that, but lead in with curiosity and what really makes someone's job important or difficult or all these things, and equally coming on your first day and not being equipped with all them tools. I think relationships are key. Building relationships and linking in with curiosity are key, but relationships, linking in with people from different departments that you can lean into and who can support your role and vice versa is really key. That also links into the piece about belonging. By building curiosity, by leaning into relationships and building relationships, communication naturally comes through, and then we get to a place of and a sense of belonging, I think. So that's just my reflection, so thank you so much.
No, thanks, Sati.
Hi, question for Dean. Going back to the difficult conversations, please, Dean. One of the tips, or you said something about, and I agree with it, it's very common that when you're giving somebody feedback, quite often you're trying to, there's a risk you might be giving somebody feedback about something that others have told you about that person, yeah? And one of the tips was use the I statement. It's quite hard to do that if you're trying to feedback third party or second hand or third hand observations of somebody. And I think that's quite common within teams, you know. So if I observe a colleague of mine behaving in a way which annoys me, I then go and whinge to my manager, do something about it, yeah? How do you handle that, please?
Yeah. Thank you. I think there is something about one of the tips I've got there about when you start the conversation, you know, are you going in to prove yourself right and be punitive, or are you going in kind of with a curious mind and to listen? So I think there's something about the preparation. So, you know, if one person's told you, you know, something about someone, you know, is that a common view? You know, can you go and do some sort of research? Can you find out? Can you ask other people about it? Is it there? You know, so kind of build up those examples for it. I think sometimes people are asking you to have a conversation that they should have. You know, so, you know, I've left it at your door, thanks very much. I've abdicated my response, and I think there's something where you can say, yeah, you're right, you need to speak to them about that. You know, and kind of pass it back, I think, is a sort of area. And then the final bit about the kind of listening in, you know, they may well say something in that isn't quite what you'd expect them to say. You can always pause the conversation and say, you know what, I've really enjoyed the conversation this morning. Let me go and find a little bit more out, and let's meet again in a couple of days. So, you know, being that open-minded to things sort of coming through. Clearly, if you've seen it, you've observed it, you've seen the behaviour, it's sort of easier to do. But that third-party sort of stuff is harder. As an HR sort of person, you often get people coming into my office that say, Dean, I need to tell you something in confidence. And, you know, I always say to them, that's brilliant, but if you tell me something that's impacting patient care, I will have something to do about it. So you can't just leave it with me. And I think sometimes it's a little bit like that with conversations as well. You know, well, I told him and he didn't do anything for something that should have been your job actually to do. So.
Thank you, Dean. Okay, we'll stop the questions there. We've got one more thing to do just before we have a break, but obviously we are all around, milling around all through the break and through lunchtime, etc. So if you have got some reflections or some questions you want to ask, just grab us, and it'd be great to have a conversation through the day as well. But thank you for your input, and thanks, Claire, for managing that as well. So I'll now hand over to Breda, who's just going to introduce the next bit. Thank you.
Thanks, Jonathan. Morning, everyone. I'm Breda Cullum. I'm Director of Nursing, Midwifery and Allied Health Professionals here at HDFT, and it's great to be here today. So I have the pleasure of introducing our next speaker, who's coming on video, Duncan Burton. So for those who don't know, Duncan is the Chief Nursing Officer for England. He's also a National Director at NHSE, and he's the National Director for Infection Prevention and Control. And I'm sure he doesn't have all of that on his name badge, but he's known as the Chief Nursing Officer for England. So really pleased he's done a little video for us, and I'll hand over to somebody else to do the technical bits, so I can't be blamed for breaking anything. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Duncan Burton, Chief Nursing Officer for England, and I'm sorry I can't join you in person today, but I wanted to send you a message as you get together to celebrate 200 years of healthcare in Harrogate. Your event is a chance to reflect on your history and developments over the years, both locally and within healthcare more widely. It's also a chance to recognise the work of colleagues across Harrogate and District NHS Foundation Trust. Whatever your role, your work makes a difference to patients, families, your communities and your colleagues every single day. Thank you for your contribution, commitment and expertise. And as Chief Nursing Officer for England, I also want to take this opportunity to speak about our nursing and midwifery professions. In the past 200 years, our professions have come a long way. Today, nurses and midwives are advanced practitioners, researchers, educators, innovators and leaders. Our fundamentals remain the same, providing compassionate, person-centred and evidence-based care. But we have evolved and adapted to meet the changing needs of our population, as well as scientific and technological advancements. And it's important that we continue to do so. The government's 10-year health plan sets out an ambitious vision for the NHS, moving care closer to home, harnessing technology and putting a focus on prevention. Our nursing and midwifery professions are at the very forefront of that transformation, whether it's leading and delivering the expansion of neighbourhood health services, driving technological and clinical innovation in areas like genomics, or our central role in public health and helping people live healthy lives. Colleagues across our professions are already leading and driving the changes we want to see. And it's vital that we continue to build on this, share and champion best practice. Importantly, the 10-year health plan commits to a new professional strategy for nursing and midwifery, a strategy that we have been developing with you, for you, and for the patients and communities you care for. It will set a vision for the future for all nurses, midwives and nursing associates in England, supporting us to transform the delivery of health and care, better support colleagues throughout their careers, and ensure nursing and midwifery remains modern choices of career for more people. Our professions have transformed beyond recognition over the past 200 years, and this strategy is our commitment to making sure the next chapter is just as transformative. So once again, thank you to everyone in the room today and your teams across the Trust for everything you do. 200 years of supporting your communities is a legacy to be proud of. And as you mark this today, please know that the contribution you each make matters. And I hope you have a fantastic event.
Thank you. So I'm pleased to say you have a refreshment break now. So if people can be back in the room for 11:10, and we'll go to breakouts after break. So refreshments are back if anyone did registration this morning, out of these doors to the left-hand side, and tea and coffee will be there. Thank you.
Thank you. Yep. Sister. Hello, she's just taking me a picture. Please. Move a bit further. Did you take everything, please? Yeah. Thank you.